Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. We're here with the Wood Elves, but not that kind of Wood Elves, a very different sort of Wood Elves. We've gone with a Horn of the Wild Hunt build, wanted to test out the new and improved Horn of the Wild Hunt, now a map-wide 54% charge bonus, which is just absolutely excellent. So we've gone with a very wide mobile build. We've got 3 units of Wild Riders spread across the field, 3 Glade Riders, one with Hagbane tips, and 1 unit of Sisters of Thorns. So the missile cavalry going to be split into 2 groups, with 1 group of poison missiles in each, with the Hagbane tips and the Sisters of Thorn. And then we've got 5 Eternal Guard arrayed in a sort of crescent here to act as the ANVIL. But of course, being Wood Elves, we're going to do a few hit-and-run charges first. My opponent, Greenskin opponent here, got some Orc Boys, Biggins, Black Orcs, nice mixed infantry detachment with some Goblins, Goblin Archers, Rusty Ears, Orc Warboss flying up in the air, Death's Creepers. We've got Broken Tusk Mob, an Orc Shaman. And yeah, right off the bat, we're just going to get things started, doing some good skirmishing on these Biggins if we can. They're obviously don't have a missile block chance and are a more high-value target than the Orc Boys, so going to be much better to charge them. Kind of using this little rock here as a bit of a terrain obstruction to screen out the Broken Tusk Mob. And now we're going to go ahead and just quickly go for a nice hit-and-run charge here. Horn of the Wild Hunt popped off map-wide. All these units going to charge in. Crazed Elves just all frenzied up, ready for a great time. Going to charge in all across the line. And these softened up Biggins are just going to get wrecked. The front line of chaff here, these Orc Boys, are going to get absolutely wrecked as well. I'm going to get a little bit sloppy, and that the Horn of the Wild Hunt is going to wear off just before this engagement happens. So these Wild Riders are not going to get the most cost-efficient engagement. This is the Broken Tusk Mob, though. They are a pretty expensive unit, so if I can at least trade evenly here, that's more or less at cost for me. I do call down the bombardment from Orion there to do a bit of extra damage, and ends up being okay. Still not the best. I do get a little sloppy over here as well, and leave these Wild Riders in for a little bit too long there, as the Crimson Killers come in and mop up quite a few. So a bit of give and take there, but we're going to try and keep the skirmish going. Now wait for another timing push as the Greenskins continue to make their way forward here. See if we can't break up the advance and isolate some different units here. Orion going to run forward and stop up these Black Orcs for a minute. He can do some heavy armor-piercing damage, so he can definitely... oh man, somebody's going for a ride there. He's just going to toss these guys around a little bit. Meanwhile, Wild Riders can come in and try and finish off these boys here briefly. And once the archers get isolated in the back line, there's no protection. The Glade Riders can then just move in and clean up. They do, of course, have decent combat stats, being Wood Elf Missile Cavalry. Should move into melee here, but it looks like I actually misclicked the order a little bit there. Wah now being popped as the War Boss dives in. Missed it a little bit. He tried to dive and actually got a really good play where he was going after the Sisters of Thorn, and I basically kept the Wild Riders, you know, right underneath him and managed to catch his charge. So he's now not able to get back up in the air. Orion comes in with the steel chair. I'm going to throw down a Shield of Thorns to give some physical resistance here. And yeah, the Boar Boys try and come in to reinforce, as do the Biggins here. It's not quite going to be enough, and unfortunately the War Boss is going to get routed off here. There's plenty of Eternal Guard with their anti-large AP. Orion's also going to call down some more bombardments here. As you can see across the line, Eternal Guard's getting mowed down by Crimson Killers. No surprises there at all. But they did manage to hold the line for some time. Over here, they're going to hold for a little bit longer as we're starting to clean up a lot of the backline units. We do have some regrouped Wild Riders here. A Foot of Gork goes off, does a ton of damage to the Eternal Guard, but it didn't thankfully catch too many of the cav, and it didn't stop the War Boss from getting routed off there. This unit of Eternal Guard as well, still relatively healthy. You can see the footprint there. It did catch quite a few. I tried to pull away, but unfortunately it wasn't fully able to pull away here. Or there, rather. But yeah, Glade Riders, another Horn of the Wild Hunt being popped as in pursuit. You do get charge bonus applied. There is somewhat of a cooldown. I forget how long. It's a few seconds. But these Wild Riders who were chasing here, some of them were able to get out in front, and now, again, they're almost continuously applying their charge bonus, so it is worth it to pop that in pursuit there as well. The Glade Riders trying to take advantage, but over here, they're stopped up by the War Boss and then shot point blank by the Archers here, which is a very good play. by that Greenskins player. Unfortunately, leadership's starting to give out a little bit. The Crimson Killers and these Orc boys here are still quite healthy, but the rest of the army pretty much is gone here. These Skulkers came in, got hammer and anviled by these Blade Riders here and the Eternal Guard, so just all across the line, the Elves doing an excellent job of taking one out of Alexander's book here, honestly, and some nice hammer and anvil, hit and run charges, all of that jazz. And honestly, the Wild Riders with that Horn of the Wild Hunt just get absolutely ridiculous. They really have just an insane charge bonus. So we're gonna have to play around with it a little bit more. Honestly, I wasn't the biggest fan of this Greenskins build here, but you can see even the Black Orcs get cleaned up quite handily there on that charge, on that rear charge there. So at this point, it's just the Crimson Killers left. My opponent's going to admit defeat here in just a moment, but we're cleaning up some more units in the back line. This War Boss is still going as well, but those Sisters of Thorn could probably put a beating on him, believe it or not. So, well played to my opponent. Had some good plays there, but unfortunately, I just didn't quite bring the right build to deal with what I had. And that initial, quick charge, then pulling back, getting some really good hammer and anvil charges, and of course being able to take out the War Boss to sort of decimate the leadership of the Greenskins, all very, very key there. 94 kills on an XP Chevron for this unit of Wild Riders, 119 on these Glade Riders as well, not too bad. 57 here, 36 for the Sisters of Thorn. The other Wild Riders didn't get as many kills. I was a little bit sloppy with them, but somebody with better micro than me could actually make this work very, very well against a faction that doesn't bring enough mobility, just because Wild Riders are so fast, and with that Horn of the Wild Hunt, they just hit ridiculously hard. That being said, from the Greenskins' perspective, wasn't the biggest fan of that build. There's not a ton of reason to bring the Black Orcs in that matchup, in my opinion. Likewise, the War Boss up on the Wyvern's a fun pick, but he will kind of get picked out of the sky. He's a little bit of a big target for missiles, so this is a build that I had used previously. I haven't used it a while on the channel just because I haven't got the opportunity to play that matchup in a while, but Greenskins versus Wood Elves can be tough potentially for the Greenskins. There's definitely a lot of different things you can do. This build is one I have taken in the past just to kind of deal with heavy missile builds. The idea here being that Goblins trade very well upwards into like Eternal Guard, pretty much any Wood Elf infantry except for Sword Dancers, War Dancers with swords, that is. They'll trade well pretty much into any of those. They'll trade cost effectively, especially with the right support buffs, even against things like Wildwood Rangers, just because you can outnumber them so heavily, and especially juiced up with chevrons. These guys actually have pretty good combat stats, 32 and 34 for these Night Goblins with poison, 120 unit models, and they also have a 55% missile block chance, stock, and vanguard. Just a lot going for them. Likewise, with the Night Goblin War Boss's ability here, this Spite of the Bad Moon, he himself, on foot at least, also has 55% missile block chance. This gives 48% extra missile parry, so you can get those units up to above 100% missile block chance. So if your opponent's shooting from the front, they're going to do almost no damage. Likewise, he has Tormentor Sword, which is great for catching out like a diving dragon or something, or just anything that gets out of position. Granted, the War Boss is relatively slow on foot and squishy, but if they happen to make a mistake, you can catch them with that Tormentor Sword and then just take them down from there. Doom Divers are great against Wild Riders. They're great against any Wood Elf high value missile units, or just any Wood Elf units in general. There's very, very few. I guess the trees they might not be that great against, but just about anything else they'll do very well. Of course, we've got some units to contest the mobility game. Spider Riders with WA active, and again with some support buffs from the Shaman, can trade decently into Wild Riders. Granted, I haven't tried it in the newest patch with the new Horn of the Wild Hunt. Whatever unit takes the charge in that situation, I'd imagine is just going to get absolutely destroyed. But if you can get 2-on-1, for example, like if you can get 2 Spider Riders on, matched up against 1 Wild Rider, and both have the charge bonuses active, you can potentially take the charge with one and charge in the side with the other, and you might be able to get a pretty decent engagement there. I'm not 100% sure, so take that with a grain of salt. It used to work. I don't know about nowadays, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see certainly how this build works out. Swig Hopper is here to they are immune psychology, so they can they can try and pin down a dragon if it dives in. You might want to swap in a chariot if you suspect your opponent's going to go for a more infantry heavy build. This build does lack a little bit in tree stopping power. I do have Vindictive Glare here to take down dragons. It's not going to be quite as good against trees, but if you were really worried about that, you could potentially just grab your standard Goblin Missile line, swap some few things out to try and get like the Rusty Airs and maybe some more Night Goblin Archers or something like that. There aren't honestly that many great tools for taking down the trees, which is an interesting sort of counterpoint to this matchup that I didn't showcase here. But I guess this video is more so about Orion and his new horn, and I have to say, pretty impressed. I might have to try it in a few other matchups, again, like Beastmen maybe, maybe against Skaven, other matchups that has some nice squishy infantry that you could take advantage of. We'll see. We'll have to have a look, maybe a future video, but hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.